as Hezbollah's leader has issued a threat to Israel, saying if a, quote, total war is launched against the terror group, quote, no place in Israel will be safe from the group's weapons. He said the Jewish state must prepare for attacks from the ground, air, and sea, saying Hezbollah will fight with, quote, no rules and no ceilings. I do want to discuss all of this as well as the latest that is developing there in the north. So let's bring in Clifford May, the founder and president of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Thank you, Josh. Good to be with you.
All right, so it is a loaded question here with a big answer, but I do want to ask your overall thoughts on the comments by Hezbollah's leader. What is he saying, and is it accurate?
Well, he's threatening Israel, and it is accurate. If there is a war between Hezbollah and Israel, which really means between Israel and Lebanon, it will be a very major war. Now, there has been a limited war going on since October 8th. In other words, the day after Hamas invaded Israel and staged the massacre in solidarity. Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hezbollah is essentially a foreign legion of the Islamic Republic of Iran in Tehran. They began to lob missiles and rockets and drones into northern Israel on a regular basis, and they've escalated this in recent weeks. And as a result of that, Israelis have been killed, and more than 60,000 Israelis have had to leave their cities, villages, homes. They're in hotels, they're further in the south, they're somewhere else. It's a situation that cannot continue indefinitely. Israel cannot allow Hezbollah to turn the north of Israel, the Galilee, the Golan, into an open, a no-go zone, a zone that is getting bombed, where there have been forest fires destroying thousands of acres. They can't let this go on indefinitely. The question is, when do they stop it and how? They have fired back. They have killed Hezbollah leaders. So as I say, it's been for months now, a limited war, but it looks like it may be getting closer to a full-scale war. And when Hezbollah says we won't abide by any rules, nobody expected them to abide by any rules any more than Hamas abides by any rules.
And on that same note, we heard from the Israel Defense Forces, and they say that they've approved an operational plan for an offensive in Lebanon. Many have called it a, quote, battle plan. So what are your thoughts on that overall? Because does it appear that Israel is preparing as well for a full-scale war?
Oh, Israel is preparing and has been preparing for a long time. And there are those in Israel, including at the highest levels, the defense minister, Yoav Gallant, for one, who has been saying we really have to stop Hezbollah from doing this. So they have a battle plan. I don't know what's in it. You don't know what's in it. They don't want Tehran or Hezbollah to know what's in it. The big question will be whether it's an air war, or there's also a component of a land war, whether infantry goes into Lebanon, whether Hezbollah infantry comes into Israel. We don't know the answer to that part of it. But I'm sure they have to have a plan. There's no question about that.
Well, and we also know that Hezbollah released some footage that was captured by what appears to be a drone that was flying over northern Israel, including the Haifa port there, and it's considered an open threat and warning from the terror group. So my question for you, why is that a threat?
Well, that's what they're doing. The drone came over Haifa. They didn't shoot it down. They could have, but it didn't have explosives in it. It was looking at the various targets in Haifa. Haifa is the third largest city in Israel. It's a very important port. It has an oil refinery. It has some high-tech corporations there. It would be a major target, no question, for Hezbollah at that point. And the Israelis are very much aware of that. By the way, there's also a chance in this kind of war that the Islamic Republic of Iran might enter itself directly, as it did at one point. You remember it sent over 300 missiles, drones at Israel. They all got knocked down. Doesn't mean they don't have more that they would use. Tehran has been establishing what he calls a ring of fire around Israel. That's Hamas in the south. That's Hezbollah in the north. That's also various Shia militias in Syria and in Iraq. That's also the Houthi rebels. They may all come after Israel. So this is a very dangerous situation. But Israel does not intend to capitulate. It intends to fight. By the way, this is an important historical point. There was the last big war between Hezbollah and Israel was in 2006. It ended with what? A ceasefire. What was that ceasefire based on? Well, the Israelis agreed to pull out of Lebanon, of southern Lebanon, in exchange for which, under UN Security Council Resolution 1701, Hezbollah was to do two things: move back north beyond the Litani River, where a lot of their weapons couldn't reach Israel, and those that could, there'd be plenty of reasonable time for Israelis to see. And second, actually, Hezbollah was to be disarmed. And there are like 10,000 UN peacekeeper troops in southern Lebanon who have done none of the above. They just watch passively as missiles, 150,000 have been implanted in schools, mosques, homes, and all that, so they can, so when the Israelis hit them, Hezbollah can say, you see, they're killing our civilians. Then, of course, Hezbollah was not disarmed. What about the Lebanese armed forces? Why aren't they doing the job? Because they can't. They're too weak. They're supported by the U.S., but they are outgunned by Hezbollah, which is, as you should know, it's a Shia militia, again, that takes guidance, maybe instruction from the supreme leader in Tehran. Are Lebanese happy with this? A lot of Lebanese are not, because their country will be destroyed if this war breaks out. The question is whether they can do anything about it, because Hezbollah essentially calls the shots figuratively and literally.
And you kind of already touched on this, but is there a way to determine Israel's military versus Hezbollah's military? Who has the overall stronger military?
Yes. Look, Hezbollah has one of the strongest militaries in the Middle East. The military experts I know, I don't consider myself one, but I know a lot of them, would say Israel's is clearly stronger. But that doesn't mean that Hezbollah will not be able to inflict a great deal of destruction and many deaths on Israelis if they go and begin to launch all their 150,000 missiles over several weeks or however long this takes. I think most military analysts, certainly the ones I know, would say Israel will win, but at a significant cost if this full war goes forward.
What is the U.S. doing overall to prevent this all-out war between Israel and Hezbollah? What is the U.S.'s role in this?
Well, Biden has sent an envoy into Lebanon to talk to the Lebanese, to talk either directly or indirectly to Hezbollah, to try to, as they would say, stabilize the situation, to try to avert the war, probably try to bribe Hezbollah in various ways. They've done that in the past. They're seeking what they will call a diplomatic solution. Whether that can succeed or not, I'm skeptical. If Hezbollah wanted, there's no reason. I mean, Israel does not threaten Lebanon. Israel does not threaten Hezbollah. Hezbollah threatens Israel. Hezbollah has displaced, as I say, more than 60,000 people from their cities and from their towns. Israel is not about to allow its country indefinitely to shrink. It's a tiny country, smaller than New Jersey. So there is a diplomatic effort. There's more the U.S. could do. Send back another aircraft carrier group to the Mediterranean and point it at Lebanon and say to Hezbollah, you have to stop shelling Israel. Israel is our ally. Send lots of weapons and ammunition to Israel and interceptors, so Israel is very well prepared. And by the way, whether there's the Houthis who are continuing to stop shipping in the Red Sea, whether it's Hezbollah, whether it's Hamas, as you would think at a certain point, the U.S. has to say, I know these are tentacles of an octopus whose head is in Tehran, and make it clear to Tehran, stop giving missiles to the Houthi rebels. Stop supporting Hezbollah as it attacks Israel. Stop supporting Hamas. Stop building nuclear weapons, which we've said on many occasions, this president and others, this regime will not be allowed to have. But Iran is moving forward with its nuclear weapons program at a very rapid pace. And by the way, that's another question. There's a possibility that Iran doesn't want Hezbollah to go full force into a war, because if it's destroyed at the end, they lose the most important gun they have pointing at Israel's head, and they may not want to lose that until such time as they have nuclear weapons and the means to deliver them. Their goal is outspokenly, not by interpretation, just candidly, their goal is eliminationist, exterminationist. They want to destroy the Israeli state, and they want to kill as many Israelis as they can. They've said that since 1979 during the revolution. I was a young reporter covering that revolution. I heard them say it then. You can hear them say it every Friday night in mosques across Iran now. Should be said, there are fewer congregants in those mosques because people in Iran overall, from what we know, are fed up with this Islamist regime spending all its money on killing people outside the country while the country itself is suffering. This administration is pushing Israel to compromise with Hamas. And Hamas doesn't want a two-state solution. Hamas wants and says it wants to do what it did on October 7th all over Israel again and again. It is exterminationist, it is genocidal, and it is openly so. That should not be acceptable to us. There's no way that Israel can get along with Hamas. And they're doing good work in Rafah. That's where the last battalions are. That's where the military leaders are down in many $billion worth of tunnels that they're hiding in while human shields walk above. So we need to be able to deter our enemies, preferably, and defeat our enemies if we have to. And we have to know that there are many enemies we cannot appease, we cannot bribe, we cannot seduce. Vigorously over the next few months before the election.
All right. Clifford May there, founder and president of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us.
Always a pleasure to be with you, Josh.